So, getting leaders to excel at managing people has always been a challenge for HR, whether it's giving feedback, recognizing effort, having tough conversations. These are the things that leaders often struggle with most, and leadership development's just not working as well as we'd like. We're spending over $360 billion globally. And in most of us, it's just not hitting the mark for us, right? About 70% of leadership programs don't lead to any meaningful change. So today we're looking at whether AI can help leaders be better at the people stuff. And with me to discuss this is the co-founder of Disruptive HR and our very own AI guru, Karen Moran. Hi, Karen. You are.
Hi.
We all go to you with our AI. You've been using this for a year, 2
Since it
years
came out,
now.
as soon as
Yeah.
ChatGPT came out, that was it. I was hooked. But I
You
don't
are
think an
just,
AI guru would call me a guru, but I do my best.
yeah, well, you're definitely, compared to the rest of us at Disruptive HR, you were definitely up there. And so it feels appropriate that I'm discussing this with you.
So yes, today we're going to have a look at some very practical, real-world examples of how AI is helping transform leadership, what it can do to improve everyday leadership behaviors, how to get started if you're in HR, and we'll also share lots of DIY ideas so that anybody can use it to boost leadership effectiveness. So simple tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Co-pilot, because of course not all of us have access to budgets that where the more advanced AI tools
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. And all right, let's kick off with a very basic question. Should we be getting leaders to think about using AI to help them lead better?
Yeah. I feel like we should be asking maybe a different question, because we were always kind of going, it's coming soon, this is coming soon, but the horse has bolted, it's already here. And I kind of think that probably a lot of leaders are already using it. They might not be telling HR they're using it, but I think many leaders already are. So I know
That's
that there's,
Yeah, it's a
sorry.
good point. It's a good point. So you think we should be asking a different question?
Yes, I do. Because I think, we know from there's been McKinsey research that 2/3 of managers are already recommending AI tools to solve their business challenges. A third of them are using AI a few times a week, not like me, every 10 minutes. And in top performing organizations, 35% are already using AI for helping leaders. And that's up from, it was 23% a year ago. So you can already see that the world has moved on. So I think the question isn't should we be using AI to support people leadership? It's how do we in HR kind of get behind it, champion it, and make sure that they're using it in a good way.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good call, actually. All right, I'll try another question as you don't like that one. Let's try the question. Why do we need AI to help leaders? Why haven't traditional methods of developing them worked?
Well, I think, you and I can think about our own experiences in kind of in-house HR roles. We're running lots and lots of workshops. Not a lot of things are changing as a result. We know our leaders are time poor. They've got their day job to focus on. And I think sometimes when we kind of rock up and say, oh, here's a training course to go on in 2 months, that's just not helpful. So they need that kind of nudge. It's a bit like giving someone a map, a handwritten map, when they just need Google Maps to tell them in the moment, turn left.
I was going somewhere with my husband recently, and I was saying, can you imagine if we didn't have Google Maps?
Oh,
We'd have had that great big kind of A2 map book, that you'd have to be trying to plot. How you did that when you were driving? We just stopped a lot, I guess. And
I
that's what,
stopped a lot, yeah, because
yeah,
I'm not very
exactly.
good at reading maps anyway, but also I'm not very good at retaining information. So I'd stop and ask someone, and they'd give me this lovely
Oh, that's the
detail,
worst.
and then it's gone. You get back and
That
then I
is
think,
the worst. You'd like it shows how old I am. You'd wind the window down, not press a button. You'd wind the window down and you'd say, could you tell me how to get to, I don't know, the town hall? And they'd say,
yeah,
yeah, no problem. You turn left, turn right. I'd gone into a blank by then. I was just like, no,
gone,
so I'd have to ask someone else like 2 minutes down the road to
yeah,
do me the
and
next bit, which
the
is the
person
nudges. And that's what,
exactly,
yeah, and that's what AI can do, right? It's these small, timely nudges in the flow of their work. It's not another course or a toolkit. It's support in the moment, a nudge, a
yeah,
suggestion, a way to make things simpler, quicker, more human.
yeah. So then let's think about, what are we really talking about when we say AI can actually help leaders?
Well,
What
I
would you
think one of
say?
the kind of best entry points that we can look at is using AI for self-development. So why don't we start with that? AI can give you this kind of pocket coach concept. So Vodafone, for example, they did have some traditional coaching, but they blended it with an AI companion called Amy. They always kind of give it a human name, don't they? So
Yeah,
this one was called Amy, this kind of pocket coach for leaders. And leaders could check in with Amy between their traditional coaching sessions. They could ask for advice, they could explore ideas in real time, and without having to wait for that scheduled call with their coach. It's
yeah.
when they needed it.
Yeah, I think Chevron did that as well, but they had they called it Marty, and it was more of like a building those kind of micro habits. So it was nudges, and it was getting leaders to just perhaps reflect a bit on their self, their style of leadership,
Yeah.
build their confidence, which we've been trying to do for so many years, haven't we? And to actually give something a try. And the results from that was that 96% of them said that they felt more resilient as a result of it. So not big sessions, those things. Sometimes we think it just feels a bit too light, but actually that's what really helps.
It's all they've got the headspace for, isn't it? Just that one small thing that they could try. And of course, you don't need a major platform to do this. We said we were going to give you some kind of DIY. And I think what we'll do, Karen, is we'll put all of these DIY prompts into the show notes. So
Okay.
people don't have to be writing them down or whatever. They can access them there. But so you can use things like ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever your preferred one is, and look at these leadership prompts like, ask me 5 reflective questions to define my leadership purpose, if that's the thing that we're looking at in terms of
Yeah.
their development, or suggest 3 ways I can learn in the flow of work without adding to my schedule. Help me shift from a kind of hands-on management, micromanagement, maybe a bit more command and control, to a more coaching-led style. Or even something like, how can I get better at spotting what the mood of the team is like?
I love that. It's just so simple, isn't it? And I remember reading last week there was someone on LinkedIn that talked about that she'd used ChatGPT to help her with creating personas of her exec team. So she's the chief people officer, and she sort of described each person, not using their names, obviously, their
Yeah.
quirks, what motivated them, what made them angry, and then
Yeah.
she used it to kind of figure out how to approach them. So she might have been maybe resolving some conflict or trying to get buy-in for something, and it just helped her kind of tailor how she would approach it, which I just think it's just it just blows my mind, really. But
I
it's
know,
just
I know.
fascinating.
You think ordinarily we'd have been having to go and read books on it, or, trial and error, and I think that's the key thing that you often talk to me about with, the DIY approaches, is if you don't like the first answer, or you don't understand it, or you don't think it's you, you can train it, and I think
Yeah,
that's where I misunderstood. I used to think it was like Google and it was that one and done and you got your answer and that was it. Whereas actually you're always saying to me, try it again, give it more information, um, design the prompt so you're kind of giving it a role. So as my coach, and
yeah,
just being clearer with it. So where are we seeing AI have the biggest impact? We've talked a bit about that kind of self-development, but
yeah.
where do you think AI with leaders is having the biggest impact?
Yeah. Okay. I think probably hiring is probably the most obvious one, and a really quick win for us in HR to get them using it for hiring. So if we think about, I can remember being in recruitment team and kind of asking managers for a job description, and then like 2 weeks later, I
Yeah.
might get one, and then
Once they
it's
dusted it down out of the filing cabinet from
yeah.
3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looked exactly the same as it did 3 years ago, and it would
Yeah.
have the kind of, they must have a degree, they must be a team player, must be love fast-paced environments, must have had 20 years experience. And I think the good thing about AI is not only can it write better, make it look more appealing, but it can challenge perhaps some of our kind of old school thinking, that kind of comfort zone that we have. So, there's tools like Textio, or even you can use, the chat GPT, to say, to challenge you on, is this qualification really essential? Now, obviously, if they're kind of a, brain surgeon, there are going to be qualifications that are really essential. But how many times do we see jobs where we kind of go, actually, is it really essential? Is this somewhere else, another way I can show that that person has the right skills and experience to do this job? Um, it also, things like Textio can kind of go, this phrasing or these words might be putting off great candidates, and so it just helps them, write a bit, more inclusive job ads. It can also help them prep for interviews, so it could be kind of like, help me think about interview questions, or help me think about a little assessment or a challenge that I could ask the candidate to do against the job, or summarize the feedback from the conversation that we just had. And of course, then there's onboard, it kind of moves then into onboarding, doesn't it? So now I know more about this person, tailor me an onboarding plan. So just, I think hiring and onboarding are probably the most obvious and the quickest wins.
Just picking up on that point you made about the kind of inclusivity, there was one team that I was working with. I can't remember whether it was Textio they were using, it might be, but they were using AI anyway
Mm.
to help them spot language in job specs that sounded a bit overly macho or just might be putting people off. And it gave them suggestions. It was really subtle, but once they changed it, they saw many more women applying, and actually the overall quality of the candidates went up as well.
That's
There's some fantastic examples out there.
Yeah, and I know this, McDonald's used Onboarder. So if any of you haven't heard of Onboarder, it's one of those suppliers that we've been following, haven't we, since back in the day
Yeah.
when we first started, because they just had it. They just had a more fresh, modern approach, and they're Australian, I think, and they've now, of course, got AI, which they didn't have 10 years ago, but they're using this kind of onboarding app where you can really personalize the experience. So you can look at it by role, by region, by personality. And then, of course, it's, we always talk about the fact that it should be personalized and it should also be employee owned. And it tailors these nudges that go to the new person, but also to the hiring manager as well. So just something like that makes something that for us in HR has always been such a struggle, hasn't it, to get
Yeah.
managers and employees to kind of take more ownership of their first few weeks. And I know McDonald's talked about early attrition dropped by 16% as a result of that. But I think, as great as Onboarder is, you don't necessarily need a provider to do that, so you can kind of do a bit of it yourself. So you could say, for example, say act as a recruitment advisor, help me write a gender neutral job ad for, I don't know, a data analyst, and what questions should I ask to assess collaboration in the interview, or could you draft me a quiz to help new hires share how they like to work so that I can personalize their onboarding? So things that would have taken, that just managers would never have had the time to do before, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think, moving on, we can have a look at how leaders can be helped to engage with their teams a little bit better using AI. We know, for example, that recognizing their teams is often overlooked. Even when leaders mean well, they don't always get that right. They don't always do it enough. I think, we were looking at that research a while ago, wasn't it, where they asked managers, how often do you recognize your team? And they were like, oh, all the time.
Oh,
And then you ask the team members and they're like, hardly ever, So
yeah.
um, actually kind of that AI can help leaders show appreciation more consistently and in more personalized ways. So there's the Kraft Heinz is a good example. They used AI generated nudges aligned to their values, like work as a team or inspiring excellence. And leaders got prompts through email or team reminding them to acknowledge someone's great work or to check in after a project. And they looked at the results of this and they found that those leaders who engaged with the nudges, because there's always going to be those that don't, right? But, let's not worry too much about them right now. The ones who engaged with the nudges through AI were significantly more likely to be rated highly by their teams. And the ones who ignored them, that we just mentioned, they were twice as likely to be flagged as needing leadership support. So some great products out there.
Yeah. And again, on that, there are the kind of DIY sort of prompts that you could use. I love things like this. It's just so powerful. So if we think about, our long service awards, if you have long service awards, and we kind of roll out the kind of, well done on your 5 years, here's a gift voucher or whatever, and it just doesn't feel special. And so a DIY prompt for a manager could be, this is a bit more about this person. Can you write me a personalized thank you message for them hitting their 5-year anniversary? Just something, again, really, really powerful. And it could be, suggest 2 simple nudges I can use to encourage more team feedback, or draft me a quick Monday morning message to get my team motivated. So,
Oh, I'm going to use that one.
yeah, we deal with that.
When I suddenly start being more motivational, you'll know what's happened.
Well, we get your 5-minute Monday, don't we, on the club? So
Oh,
that's our
yeah, there
Monday
you go.
motivation.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and I think also it can help with careers. So we know that, for example, PepsiCo, Johnson are all using kind of these like internal talent marketplaces, and AI can now suggest things like stretch opportunities, internal gigs, spot maybe underused skills, and even predicts, because of someone's tenure, whether they might actually be ready for a move. So I just think, again, manually, us trying to get that insight would
Oh,
take
God,
so
yeah.
long. And then it would already be out of date. And I think it helps surface it in real time and gives it to managers in real time. So I know PepsiCo have done things like, if they can see where people might have kind of hidden skills, and then it might pop up to the manager saying, hey, you've got someone in your team with underusing their analytical skills. Here's a project that could stretch them. So, it's just fabulous, isn't it? You can tell I get really excited.
I know
It's
you
that.
love it, don't you? But again, I think, that DIY approach that we use, we don't have, a big product in our team, do we? We use the DIY version, but, hugely valuable. And, in terms of that kind of career development, there are approaches that we can use. So prompts like suggest 3 project ideas to help someone grow their stakeholder management skills. How can I talk to a team member about development when they're not ready for promotion? That is something that we know leaders struggle with a lot. And what they would normally do is avoid the conversation because they're worried about opening up a conversation when the person isn't ready. What could I say to encourage someone to think more broadly about their career options? And of course, the prompts we're giving you, which again, just to repeat, we'll put them in the show notes so you've got them there. These are generic ones, but you can then tailor it to roles and grades and level and tenure and personality type and so on. So just that kind of, really fantastic questions that we can put into ChatGPT, and within seconds, just before that meeting with the individual, they've got some things to help them have that conversation.
Yeah, it's just so useful. So we've obviously talked about how it can help them be better leaders, better coaches, improve team performance, improve morale, have better conversations, even the tricky ones, hire and onboard, and so on. But let's say someone who's listening to us today thinks, right, okay, I want to give this a go. Where would you say they should start?
Yeah, I mean, there are 4 key factors that drive the adoption of a new technology, and apologies for the very unsnappily titled theory that I'm going to give you now. But there's a model which is called the UTAUT model. Bit of a mouthful. It stands for the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, there we go. But what it's basically saying is there's 4 reasons which will encourage someone to take this up. So we're wanting leaders to engage with AI because we think it can help them do things better. How are we going to get them to use it? And notwithstanding the stats that you started with, Karen, there are clearly large numbers of leaders who aren't using it, as well as the ones who are increasingly use it. 4 key factors then. So first one is what they call in this model performance expectancy, which is basically, will it help me do my job better? So we need to be helping them understand that it will help them do their job better. This prompt helps you write a recognition message in 30 seconds. That's the kind of thing we need to be conveying. Second factor is effort expectancy. Other words, is it easy to use? They don't need to be going on a training program. So it needs to be where they are. So do they use Slack? Is it on Teams? Where is it? Where are these prompts? If it's a product, then how integrated is it into the things that they use every day? Is it going to be tricky to learn? Is it intuitive? If we're having to send them on a training program or give them a little video about how to use it, forget it. It's got to be so intuitive. The third factor, social influence. So are the people I work with or the people I respect, are they using it? Yeah. So have we got role models? Have we got influencers using it? Are we sharing examples from their peers about how Scott in accounts used it to have a better conversation with that difficult employee? And then the final one, which again sounds a lot of buzzwords, but facilitating conditions, which is things like, do I have what I need to give it a go? So do I understand the conditions of use around it? Like, don't use real names or confidential data. Yeah. Have I got a simple one pager that just shares with me how we in our organization are using it? But I think, notwithstanding that, I think quite a helpful model, which is that kind of, will it help me do my job better? Is it easy to use? Are the people I like and admire using it too? And do I have what I need to try it? If we've got those conditions, then that's great. But keep it light. Make it okay to experiment. I love, some companies are encouraging leaders and employees to share their favorite prompts. They call them promptathons, which I
I
just
love
think
that.
it's just so
I'd
good.
love to go to
So
a promptathon.
I know you would love a promptathon, wouldn't you? But it's about share those aha moments. I used it for this and it helped me do X, Y, and Z. So giving people prompts to use, helpful prompts, and we've done this with our Disruptive HR Club members, haven't we? We
Yeah,
gave them a leader prompt sheet and they loved it.
yeah. They do. Because I think that's the secret. The secret is in the prompts. And I think if our leaders don't know what to ask, they're not going to use it. But if they get something great back because you've given them a really good prompt, I think they're going to be hooked. So
Yeah.
it could be, help me prep for a conversation with someone who wants a promotion who isn't quite there yet. If that's going to really make a difference to that relationship that they've got with that person, they're going to be thinking, oh, there's so many ways that I could be using this. So
Yeah.
yes.
So let me just pause here, and we just mentioned the club, the Disruptive HR Club, just give you a little bit more information on it. So we've got members all over the world, HR professionals who want to do things a bit differently, thousands of them, thousands of people like you if you're listening to this podcast. With membership of the club, you get weekly live training sessions with Karen and I. You've got on-demand training programs and tons of useful toolkits to help you make the changes in your organization. If you want to find out more, just head to our website at disruptivehr.com and there's more information in the show notes. So what's the one thing you could do this week? And I think the good news is that, we don't have to overhaul our entire leadership program, right? Let's pick one pain point that leaders are often struggling with or are struggling with, maybe giving feedback, maybe onboarding, whatever it might be, and just show them how AI could help with that one pain point. Share a simple prompt, let them try it out, and kind of, build their confidence through these small wins.
Yeah. I think also we could also look at external vendors, the people that know this stuff so well, and maybe get them in to help you or show you what their tools can do. Always make sure that they integrate with what you're using already. So if you're using Slack or MS Teams, make sure that they can integrate, which most of them will be able to do now. But whether you decide to go high tech or keep it DIY, the key is just to start something, just something.
Yeah. Exactly. Get going and always pilot it. It doesn't have to be a mass rollout
Yeah.
across the whole organization and an instruction or a mandatory training programs to use AI. Try it with a few more open-minded leaders. Chances are they'll be using it anyway, but they might not know that they could use it for people leadership. It's about learning and adapting and sharing what works. Okay, so that is it for this episode. Hopefully we've convinced you that AI isn't just for data scientists or tech teams. It's here to support better leadership as well. It can help your managers be more thoughtful, responsive, and human with just a little bit of help from a machine. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. Thanks, Karen.
Pleasure, Lucy.
And see you next time. Bye. Hi, I hope you found this useful. If you'd like more videos like this, then make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications.